Hi everybody, this is a short video on the difference between sex and gender, and I wanted to make this little video to clarify what the difference between those two topics are, and so that you understand gender is the focus, primarily the focus of this class, and also because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fact versus opinion. I think it ties in really well here. Sex, so if we're talking about facts, sex is a biological concept. It's like your sex is determined male. It's male, female, and then there's some other like intersex and some other categories as well. And it's determined by your biology, by your chromosomes, by anatomy, by your DNA, by hormones, all kinds of different things. And if you want to know more about that, you need to look it up online or go talk to a geneticist or something, biologist, because I'm not actually an expert in biological DNA, because I'm not a biologist. Um, but it's we make it seem like it's really straightforward that it's just male or female. But hopefully, by doing the reading this week, you learned that there's a lot of people who aren't that their genetics, they're not exclusively male or female. They might be intersex, and there's a lot of variations of that as well. So sex is a biological concept, right? That's a fact. And that's just that's the definition of that word. And then gender is a little different. And sometimes people want to confuse these two. So gender is a social construct. It has to do with expression, and um, it's something that you were learned, or that you learned rather, or that you were taught by your family or your peers and your culture and all that. So it's a set of expectations, and you may or may not fit really super nicely into the set of expectations. And it's something that is often considered to be a performance, and it might even change for some people over time. So it's a social construct, right? Gender is something that you were trained into performing, a way of acting. Like there's no real reason why we have this notion that women should wear skirts. I mean, obviously in 2018, that doesn't have, that's like not it anymore, but you still don't see very many men wearing skirts. So there's no like logical reason why we're like, hey, only wearing a skirt is a super feminine thing to do, but it's not a super masculine thing to do. It's just a cultural concept that we came up to. And if you go to a different culture, that doesn't apply in every culture. Like go to Scotland, because there'll be guys wearing kilts, which are basically skirts, and trust me, they find that to be highly masculine. So it's really cultural, and it might vary depending on what culture you're in. So gender is a social construct. And the reason why I want you to get that that's like the definition of the word, right? It's not an opinion. You might have an opinion about gender as a social construct and what is or is not expected, but the actual definition of the word is that it's a social construct. So I think it's really important that we understand the difference between the two, and that we're going to be talking mostly about gender in this class. The last thing I wanted to say is that gender does exist. We tend to talk about it in binaries like masculine and feminine, but there is a whole bunch of room. I mean, you could call it a spectrum or a scale or a big messy graph. I mean, it's kind of up to you what helps you understand it the best, but there's so many different things out there besides just masculine and feminine, and ranges, degrees. Like you could be androgynous, a person might be androgynous, so they express multiple, and they express some qualities of masculinity and some qualities of femininity, or maybe they don't have a particular gender presentation at all, and that could be a way to express androgyny as well. So there's a lot of room in the middle, and in fact, if you listen to the podcast from this week that I assigned, they talk about how sex is actually not as binary as most of us were taught to think about it either. And then it's not quite as simple as what we were taught to believe either. So it was super interesting. And I found that podcast really interesting because um, it hints at some things about this whole concept that there's only masculine or only male and only female, when in fact it turns out genetically, factually speaking, that is not true. So like this whole notion that we were taught when we were in sixth grade, it turns out that was kind of a lie that people sold you to help you understand what was going on, and maybe even to help them understand what was going on, frankly. Because just biologically speaking, there's more than male and female. There's a lot of different variations. So it doesn't surprise me that if I'm talking about the social construct of gender, I'm going to find there's more than masculine and feminine. and that there's a variety of presentations. And the last thing that I want to note with this video, you might have noticed I've been talking about male, female, masculine, feminine. Please know that if we're talking about sex, the terms we normally use are male and female, and then intersexed, or there's some variety in there too, but typically it's male, female, intersex. I always kind of feel bad because intersex is like this term to accommodate a whole host of different ranges of genetic conditions. And I honestly, that is a geneticist's job to know that. And so I only know like this much, and I'm sure it's huge. In fact, there's probably not a lot of people who know everything that there is to know. They couldn't, because we don't have all that research. But also, so male and female are used, those are the biological concepts with sex. In this class, we're going to focus on masculine and feminine, which are the way of describing social constructs and performative ways that we perform gender. So they're slightly different words, and we'll try not to confuse them together too much, because I think it's important we use the right terminology. It sends a really important message about the subject matter. So gender, that's masculine, feminine, and then everything in between, androgynous, all that stuff. So lots of different words, but we're going to specifically focus on gender in this class. Okay, I hope that helps you understand the difference between the two concepts.